I'm going to try to reduce language learning to some very simple terms that don't use complicated vocabulary at all. And I think of language learning simply as involving two tracks. The first track is what you know about the language. You keep learning more about the language, more vocabulary, more about their grammar. The second track is what you can do with what you know about the language. You can read quickly, you can speak very well, you can understand what you're listening to. Okay? And a lot of approaches to language learning will overemphasize one track over the other. So there will be approaches that give you, say, lots of flashcards so you get a lot of knowledge about the language, but they underemphasize being able to use that knowledge. There are other approaches that say, get out there, speak to the natives, blah, blah. You'll be able to be really good at speaking with a very limited knowledge of the language. But your speaking ability, although you may get faster and feel very comfortable with it, you won't be able to speak about very complicated topics because you don't have much knowledge of the language itself. And so these tracks shouldn't be seen as alternatives. I like to think of them as ladders. And there's a what you know about the language ladder and what you can do with the language ladder. And rather than being, you can of course focus on one ladder and keep running up it to the exclusion of the other, and you'll make fast progress because just climbing one ladder or the other ladder, the other ladder is going to be quite quick. You just focused on one thing. So you'll gain a lot of knowledge about the language very quickly and you'll feel great, but you'll soon hit this point where you think, oh, I know a lot, but I can't say a lot, or I can't understand anything when I listen to it. Or the can-do one, you'll learn a little bit about the language, then rush to practice it for a very long time, stop really learning much about the language, but become really good at speaking and hearing certain things and reading certain things and so on, and writing, so that you can become very proficient, very skilled in the language, but in a very limited vocabulary, for example, or in using very limited tenses, because you don't know much about the language. So I see that instead of rushing to the top of one ladder or the other ladder, what you really need to do is to climb both ladders with one foot in each. Yeah? Now, people often say, actually, I've been working hard for ages and I'm stuck at a plateau. I can't seem to break through it. And what I've realised is that often comes about because they've actually not done this balancing. They think, I'm really good at speaking, but only in a limited context, so I've got to keep practicing speaking. But that's not true. Repeating, or again, I know thousands of words, but I still can't say anything. I need to learn more thousands of words. Well, chasing up the ladder you've always been chasing up isn't going to break you through the plateau. The plateau, I believe, in my experience at least, is when you are not balancing your feet on the two ladders. Yeah? So if you find you've spent a long time on one of these ladders, you may be overreaching and not able to balance properly. You've got 1 foot high up here and 1 foot low on this one, for example. What you really need to do is to rebalance yourself and think, okay, I'll bring the other myself up to a higher level on that ladder, and that'll allow me to progress on both of them more easily. So this balanced ladder approach, this balancing what you know about the language and what you can do about the language, to me, is the real way to make progress without getting stuck at plateaus and without having those feelings that you're climbing and climbing and climbing and not getting anywhere. And it'll also help you evaluate any method that you're looking at or any product that's being sold to you. You'll be able to see, is it really giving me fast progress because I don't have a balanced approach? Is it really just giving me lots of vocabulary that I can't use? Or is it just making me really good at speaking, but only about a few things? So that's it. The two ladders approach to language learning. Learning things about the language and learning to use those things to develop a skill with them and keeping those things balanced. Thank you.